Excellent. All right. Well, like Linda was talking about community, and I was just having a conversation with Marissa and Delana about this. It's this theme in my life that when everything starts to go to shit, right? That community and particularly like camaraderie with women is the thing that always pulls me out. Like it's always my salvation. And in some, like, it's always tied to music with me in some ways. And I know it's not that way for everybody, but like that is like the thing that like we're all gravitating toward, right? To create community. And it's been really hard lately, you know, this past year. I mean, going from like being around people all the time, going to shows all the time, and like getting those little moments of just like that connection with complete strangers, right? It doesn't even have to be your people. You could just go to a show by yourself and just still have that level of connection with somebody. And I think we're all like now feeling the lack of that and how important it was, which is why I wanted to, because who knows, I know concert halls are going to sort of open again, but I mean, we're not going to be back to normal for a while. And in the meantime, we can try to commune in like this way. So I thought I would start off like this kind of Zoom series with some stories of transformation, because I feel like we're all going through the fire right now. And I don't know, maybe we can, like, if you have any kind of insights or questions as I'm going, like, feel free to like pipe in or type a question in the chat. So I'm just going to start from like super young. What I remember when I was like 5 years old, I would sing by myself. And every time I would like really push it out, like I would cry every single time I would sing. Like it was this like, has anybody ever experienced that? It's like as soon as I pushed this belt out, like it would have to be like me really singing. But it wasn't like a sob or anything. It was like my eyes just teared up. And like that has always stuck with me as like I was born to do this, and like my soul was remembering that that's what I had experienced before, or like why I was sent here, you know? And so even as a kid, like when I had that taste of that, it just brought me to tears every single time. And it was actually kind of embarrassing because I remember like trying to sing with Girl Scouts and like tearing up, singing Kumbaya and like trying to hide it. But yeah, so I would sing, and at some point, as we do, like we become really aware as girls of like people's perception of us, right? And even if I was singing okay, somebody told me that I wasn't, right? Or somebody started making fun of me, particularly when my dad and my brother used to give me hell about it a lot. So I stopped singing out loud. And also I had some trauma happen to me when I was really little, from like 5 to 7. So that shut my voice down too, pretty good. And then whenever I was 12 or so, first off, I was in a Hanson, like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC were like nothing. Because I was like, whatever, Hanson plays instruments, like they write their own songs. And I was very elitist about my Hanson. But I immediately went from Hanson to Manson. And I started getting like the Columbia House like deals in the mail. So I figured out how to scam them. Like I would sign my neighbors up who like were, their mailboxes were on my way to school. And then I would get the free CDs in their mailboxes and just pick them up. I know, I was scandalous. I was a little entrepreneur.
Mail fraud. Postal inspectors.
It was. So I would do that. And I ended up getting like 9 Inch Nails and Manson and Radiohead and Smashing Pumpkins and like all this stuff. And I was just like loving it. I was in my Discman. I'm like, oh, okay. This is like where I belong, and I need to find my people. So the internet was just beginning at that point, and it was really like, it was like the time of Napster too. So I was just starting to like download songs, which took 20 years, you know. So my music collection was growing. I went in chat rooms. I found like a 9 Inch Nails chat room, and I, lied about my age. I was 12 and I said I was like 16. And sometimes I'd be like 21. But I would just hear all these people's stories about like going to like goth clubs and seeing Nine Inch Nails in concert. And I would ask people questions about like what they were listening to. And so I started to learn all about new music and just get exposed to this whole scene. Because growing up in bumfuck, West Virginia. There's no goth scene in West Virginia, right? So I'm like walking around. My parents wouldn't let me dress goth either. So I would like, I was a little hoodlum. Like I would go to Hot Topic. I would steal everything I needed. I would go to Deb and steal clothes too. Like everything I got that was like my like, this is who I am, mom, fuck you collection. Like I stole it. So I hid all this stuff in my backpack, and then I would change clothes at the bus stop and then change back. It was like I would get into like costume to go to school. And so I ended up like, well, I ended up getting attracted to like fucking assholes and hanging out with this girl whose mom was never home. And like, we had like older guys over all the time, and that led to some pretty sketchy situations. So I ended up getting abused again because of that situation. And then my parents like handled it really fucked up. And it was bad. I was grounded for like a year and a half. I couldn't leave my room. And yeah, and I was like from 12 on, like I was already doing drugs and drinking, and I was not in a good space, right? So then the guy who raped me, like my parents, they like blamed me for it and called me a whore and like all this stuff, but I really just needed help. And they didn't know how to give that to me. They were like not equipped to deal with it or had the time, because we were living in poverty and they both worked all the time. Like it was hard for them to keep an eye on me too. Because I was raised by my grandmother and my grandfather too. My grandfather passed away. But so yeah, we were all like growing up in this little trailer hood, and I was kind of an asshole. So after all that went down, like I really went deep down the hole in music. I managed to come up with a bass, and I was spending all this time in my room grounded. My parents didn't understand the internet at all, and they like had no idea what the fuck I was doing in my room on my computer. Thank God. But the bad stuff aside, like I was learning. I've discovered tabs. I had printed off like all these tabs, and I was teaching myself how to play music. But all the people that I just told you about earlier, right? Smashing Pumpkins, Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, like Pearl Jam, Nirvana, all this, that was all dudes. Like I didn't get into Bikini Kill until like way later. And I like the only woman musician I knew was Darcy from Smashing Pumpkins, and I can't think of her name now, but the girl from White Zombie. So they were like the only women bass players that I knew. And Tori Amos, I did like her. So, but I didn't see myself reflected in music, right? And because of that, I feel like it really led to me not being like, well, I could start a band. Because I didn't really think I was capable of starting a band. I wasn't good enough. There was like this level of perfection. Because even though I was a total hoodlum, like delinquent, I still made really good grades in school and like went above and beyond in like learning. And I learned more than my teachers taught me. I felt like, because I would use the internet to educate myself. So after the depression and like attempting suicide and all this shit, I just dove into music, and it saved my life. Like hands down, without that kind of escape, I have no doubt that I wouldn't be here today. And I owe it to that kind of music. So I left, I went to college, and I really wanted to major in music, but I was scared to. I didn't think I was good enough to major in music. And I was afraid of the kind of commitment the band was going to bring on me when I was already drinking all the time and doing drugs. So I was like, well, I'm just going to be an art major. And I like drawing and stuff like that anyway. So I went to college, I majored in graphic design. And then when I came back home, I couldn't really find a job. So I just started working like 1,000 jobs at once. Like I worked at a cafe, I worked at a gallery, I worked at GameStop for like ever. And I started dating somebody who, I mean, he was just kind of a loser, and I felt stuck. And one day I went out, and I was talking to this woman who was probably in her 50s, and she had moved to West Virginia from somewhere else, like was retiring there or something. And she was like, well, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I don't know. What am I doing here? She was like, you're too smart to be here and just like waste your life. Like, why don't you go somewhere and like just experience something? And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, I should do that. And she gave me a job. She owned cabins, and she gave me a job staining them, which paid me like $2,000, and it was enough to get me out. And I moved to Hilton Head Island with like knowing no person. Like, I just went there because it had island in the name. I found a random roommate from Ohio who also wanted to just fucking flee her situation. And she came and picked me up, and we went to Hilton Head together, and I didn't even know her. And we stayed in an extended stay hotel, and we both love going to shows. So we started going out to bars and seeing bands, and there was this one band we liked in particular because they play like 90s hip hop, and it was just really fun to dance to. So we ended up hanging out with them. And then one of the guys in the band, Mike, he ended up becoming my bass teacher. Like, long story short, like, he kind of discovered me when I was drunk, and I was like, my guard was down enough to play in front of him. And he was like, whoa, you can play. And I'm like, oh, like, it's just half of this Tool song, I remember. Like, and he's like, no. And then we had our first jam session together, and like, learning with him was I've just never been in a situation to have like an adult mentor like that see me progress. And every time I do it, they're like, yeah, that's it. And like, I would just look up and see him smile and be like, yes, 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 all the time. And that motivated me so much that I learned his band's entire set in about a week. And I hadn't played bass in like 10 years. But I was just so motivated to practice. Well, he like called me up on stage, like called me out before all that to play one of the songs he taught me. And I got up there, and I was just like so nervous, but I was addicted. I was like, I have to do that again. And I ended up being better than the bass player they had. So they kicked him out, and they brought me in. And then I just played music for a living. And it was so much fun. But keep in mind, I'm still drinking and partying my ass off the whole time. So I hadn't really gotten sober at that point. So it was fun, but it wasn't sustainable. And I feel like if I would have stayed there, I would have gotten really strung out. So I moved to Charlotte, and it was just like, I'm just going to go live in a city and like form a band with this dude who's cute. Like, sure, he's going to give me a place to stay. I'll stay there for like a few months, and then I'll do that. And then I'm going to move to California. Like, that was my thing. So that's how I met my ex-husband. And at first it was all good because like, right, I told you I was getting strung out. Like, I needed to like chill out. I needed a place to go and get sober, and he gave me that. And he like helped me in that way. But I had a really hard time like finding a job because I was just playing as a musician under the table. Like, I didn't have like a work history really. And so I like sold AT&T Uverse door to door. Like, then I got a job part-time at Victoria's Secret, and I started climbing up the ladder there, and eventually was like managing a store, and I hated it. Like, I was miserable. And we started forming bands. And it was basically like he just wanted the same band that I already had in Hilton Head. And I didn't really want to do it again. Like, I already played. I'm like came from these roots of like rock and alternative and stuff. And I was like playing in a like hip hop 90s band, which was fun, but I wanted to rock. And the band that we kept putting together was just like it was just that. It was like the same set list, and it was the same thing. And it was all these guys with huge fucking egos. And we couldn't communicate with they could communicate with each other, but like I could literally say something and they would ignore me. And then my ex-husband would say the same thing, and they'd be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, Jason. And I like constantly being undermined. Well, I only played bass at this point, too. So if there was something in my head I wanted to communicate, I wasn't educated enough to be like, hey, you know, play your hi-hat more on drums or play a D chord there. I didn't know that kind of stuff yet. So that was a catalyst for me to get educated more so I could speak to like the sounds that I heard in my head. So that was a cool motivator. Well, our band ended up having this blowout. Because like, and it was crazy. Like the guitar player like went off on me. I don't even remember what I did, but he was like calling me a bitch and was like screaming in my face and was getting really aggro. I'm like, there's no fucking fixing this shit after that. Like, I'm not going to be in a band with you. I don't feel safe. And so that all fell apart again. Well, meanwhile, at home, shit was getting more and more controlling. Like, you know, I couldn't go anywhere without him. Like, I didn't have any friends here. I had no circle. Like, all the people that worked at Victoria's Secret were not my people. And I was lonely as shit. And then I'm like, well, I'm with a person, they own their own home, like they own their own vehicle, like, you know, I'm lonely, but I'm in this relationship now and I feel like I can't really leave, but he's okay. Like, I feel like I can settle here and be all right, you know? And it's like, I want a baby because I'm not getting any younger and I do want a kid. So we just like, we didn't even talk about it. We just got pregnant. Both of us, I guess, wanted a kid. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm pregnant, so maybe we should get married. And it was like no excitement about it. I mean, it was just like this logical, like tax discussion. There was no passion or romance or anything like that. And I was just like, I just felt like, okay, well, I've been here for a few years. Like, I feel like I could be comfortable here. And like, what else could I even do? Right. So we got married and his mental health continued to deteriorate. He was an alcoholic and, oh, hi, Peppy. He was an alcoholic and we had a bad night one night. We did a show together and he ended up screaming at me at the show in front of everybody at the bar. And it was fucked up. And then after that, he's like, okay, I'm not going to drink. Cadence was like 6 months old at this point. I almost left him then, but then he quit drinking. So I was like, well, I'm not going to leave you because you're trying. But he didn't get any help. And he got more and more paranoid over time. And I was like, when Cadence was born, that's when Girls Rock was just starting that year. And I'm like, oh God, like this is a cause I can get behind. So I went to volunteer and like I met everyone, and after the first camp I was like, I am in. Like I told Kelly, I'm like, whatever you need, I am like your person. I have this time off, like I have a new baby, I have time to give, I want to volunteer. Here's a list of all the things that you need to make the next camp better, and like blah, blah, and so Kelly looked at me, she was like, okay, well, will you be my music director, because she doesn't even play instruments. And I was like, of course, yes, like a purpose, because, you know, music, whenever I went to Hilton Head and I started playing music, like I had a voice finally after not having it for a long time. And to be at that point where you just kind of like, it wasn't even like a slow immersion out of my shell. It was like I exploded out, and I saw the same thing happen to the kids. And I was like, this must continue to happen because their lives are going to be forever changed by it. Like my life is already forever changed, right? So then with Girls Rock, I'm like, oh, wait, there's cool people in Charlotte that like get me and understand me. And I started to make friends. And one of the kids' moms asked me to be their kid's bass teacher. And another Girls Rock kid asked me to be their bass teacher. So Pachyderm Music Lab like started really organically like that. I just started getting students, and then the Girls Rock volunteers wanted kind of the same thing. So it's like, okay, well, let's do Lady Rock Stars, and we'll do the same thing for us. So that whole thing just ended up happening out of this need of all the people that I was meeting. And it was like a need that I needed, because suddenly like that emptiness I felt inside, like it was gone. And I realized if I continued to work at Victoria's Secret, I was basically paying somebody else to raise my kid. So I quit that job. And then I started teaching lessons on the side. Well, I didn't want my passion to like overtake everything of my spouse's life. Like I wanted him to have something too. We didn't have a band anymore. And I was like, he's really into vinyl records. I said, let's open up a record store and then I can teach my classes out of the back. Well, that got like his wheels turning, and his boss owned this building, but it ended up not being a record store because he couldn't get his shit together, basically. But I get my shit together, and I like follow through on shit. So that's how I had the spot in Indian Trail. And then once I got the spot in Indian Trail, like our marriage started to really go down fast. Like he got super controlling. He installed cameras like everywhere, like watched me all the time. Like I tried to create all these events for him to like be able to come to, and then he would go but be really fucking awkward and weird, and then be mad at me because he was awkward and weird. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do women only events, then he doesn't have to come and he doesn't feel like, but then all of a sudden I'm leading him out, and then he's watching us on the cameras. Like, I didn't know until later. So yeah, and then I'm coming home and I'm getting yelled at like for hours every night. And then it wasn't until Cadence was, she was probably like 4. She like came up to me and she said, "Mommy, why is Daddy so mean to you?" And I was just like, shit, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm gonna fuck up my kid. My kid's probably already fucked up because she's seeing this behavior. And like in my head, like it's not as bad as it really was, because I had been so conditioned to the way it was. But then it got so bad that like even my friends were like, "Krystle, this isn't normal. Like he can't treat you like that. He can't behave this way." And he started acting out at me in front of some of my closest friends too. So at that point I'm like, all right, escape plan. I got really triggered because of a thing that happened at camp. And it was just like, it like happens, like kids tell you stuff. And a kid told me something and I was like, all right, I'm going to do everything I can to help you. I mean, but there's really nothing I can do other than tell Child Protective Services, which really like, you're like, oh, is it going to help? I don't know. It's like a whole debacle, but it sends you back into your shit. And so I like spiraled way, way, way low. And I have a baby and I have a business. And I'm like, I don't even want to get out of bed. Like, I just want to lay in the floor and die. And my ex, he wasn't like helping me at all, I mean, he was still being mean to me. And then he was like body shaming me because I had gained a bunch of weight. And I was like, okay, well, fine, like pay for me to have a gym membership. So he did. And I started going to the gym and working out and meditating and like watching all these like business school videos and like trying to motivate myself. I just forced myself to do it. And it actually like pulled me out. But right around that time, one of my closest friends from like childhood, like she OD'd, and she has a kid the same age as Cadence, and that was really rough. I went to her funeral, and then like Jason's sister lost her baby, and we went, and the baby was like 6 months old, and we went to that funeral, and it was open casket, and it was really hard. And then another close family friend that like grew up with us, he like went to Afghanistan, did the whole thing, like came back, had a whole family, and then like got murdered. And this was all like back to back to back. So I was feeling triggered from the assault too, plus all the grief of that. And like, that's what I was trying to just like work out and push myself through it. So I got back from Amy's funeral, and Cadence wasn't with me that day, which was a rare day. And I went to this tree that was like in a field close to the old lab. And I sat at it with my back on the tree. And when I opened my eyes, there was this like path beaten down in the grass in front of me. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what's over here. So I got up and I started walking it. And then I found this deer that had just passed away. And its like leg was broken and it had bled out, and I touched it and it was still warm. And my first instinct when I saw that was, you know, why? Why? Like, haven't I seen enough dead? Like, why, God? This and like knee-jerk like burst of anger kind of came out of me. And then it was just like, oh, hey, like I'm comfortable here. Okay. And then I like talked to the deer spirit and I walked with it back to the tree. And I went and got, because I'm like, did that just happen to me? It felt like so surreal. So I went in and back and I got my phone and like I went back to take a picture of it to prove to myself that that actually happened. And when I looked at the picture, I could see that the deer's neck was all like back really far, but it had like raised its head to turn up to look at the tree. Like the tree was this like place that has seen a lot of death, and it's like a comfort. So I had that tree, and like death to me, and I read tarot and stuff too, and like death is always like rebirth, right? It's transformation, and it's like, you know, what happens on the other side. Death is this very jarring change that always like births something new. So after that, I've just kind of started getting into animal magic, and like I notice bugs and creatures and things, and I always read symbolism out of it. I was outside of the lab one day and I was spray painting pedal boards, and this caterpillar fell out of the tree while I was spray painting, like right into my lap. And it was this big, fat, awesome looking thing. And I showed it to Cadence, and then we put it in a tree and it cocooned. And I was like, whoa, like when this thing comes out, like my life is going to be changed. Like, that's it. I'm going to be on the other side of all this depression and BS. And I know it, right? So I cut the branch off the tree and I go and hang it in the kitchen at the lab. Well, I read that when that type of caterpillar overwinters, it'll take like 3 months. It'll either be 2 weeks or 3 months. Like there's no in between. So I put it in the window and the 2 weeks pass and it's just in there chilling. Well, at that time, my friend, she reached out to me. She works for NPR, and she was doing a new podcast for them called the She Says podcast, which is about a woman's journey after she's been sexually assaulted, but it's like going through the system and like following that trail, what happens when you're actually raped. And it was an incredible series. And she came to me and she was like, you know, I have this idea for this story. I interviewed this woman, but like her story is longer, and I'm thinking of doing a podcast, and I wanted to know if you would do the soundtrack. And I was like, well, I've never done a soundtrack before. And she's like, well, I've never done a podcast before, but here we are. And I said, okay, sure. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this with Jason. I think this is the thing that's going to make our marriage come together. Like me and him working on a project together. Oh, hell no, y'all. It was not good. It was not good at all. It was like, it made everything worse. It put like salt in the wound. And plus, it's like, here, let me listen to this thing about rape, and I haven't dealt with my rape, so I can get inspired. So at that point, I was just like, all right, I surrender. I'm just going to fall to the bottom of the pit and cry and write some music. And I did. And the music turned out to be awesome. I'm really proud of how that turned out. Well, that took like a season, right? It was fall into like it took to spring for the thing to come out. And during that time, the butterfly or the moth just like didn't come out. And I was like, damn it, my dreams are dead. Like I used to be able to shake this thing and it would be like, I could hear it scratching in there, but I'm like, I don't hear it anymore. It died, just like my dreams, and like my marriage is falling apart. Nah. Well, I was obsessed with TED Talks, and my friend Laura Americo, she messaged me. She's like, Krystle, TEDx is opening in Charlotte. You need to apply. Just do it already. And I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll do it. I won't get it. And then I kept going to the next round. And then I wrote, my original speech was about how to rewire your brain to dismantle the patriarchy. That was going to be my speech. And I was like, yeah, this is my 5-minute speech. And I like tied music all into it and everything. So I said the speech. I told my spouse I was going to do it, and he like acted completely disinterested. And I'm like, okay, well, do you want to hear it? Like, I've been practicing. And he would just like be like, well, I've got to work, or I've got to do this. And so I just left the speech, like I typed it up and I just left it out. And then I was like, yeah, the thing, did you see it? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, why didn't you say anything? He said, because I don't agree with about 80% of it. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't you just like give me some notes or some feedback, like help me out here. And it turned into a big fight, and the same as it ever was, right? So I went to this TED meetup, and I'm talking to all the TED speakers, and they're like, what is your speech about? And I would tell them, and then they'd be like, well, who are you? What do you do? And I'd be like, oh, I'm Krystle Baller, and I do Girls Rock Charlotte, and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, I'm like, honestly, I'm way more interested in just learning more about who you are. I think your speech should be about like your journey and not this other thing. And I'm like, okay. So, so then the She Says podcast is about to come out. At this point, I was like waiting to see if I was a TEDx speaker. The moth has still not emerged yet. I see this woman says something about like shadow healing with your womb or something, and I was just like, what is that? Like, what is shadow work? Like, what is that? I think I might need that, considering I have so much trauma. Maybe, and it clearly I need to work through it, because all these things keep hitting me in the face, like, hey bitch, work on your shit. So Stephanie, I'm recording it, so you'll be able to see it. Thank you for coming. So I like had this woman like messaging me back immediately. She's like, let me tell you about shadow work and womb healing. And I'm like, whoa, like this is way too woo-woo for me. Like I'm like into animal magic and stuff, but this just seems like this woman seems out there. And then somebody underneath my comment, somebody commented a butterfly emoji who didn't even know me. And I was like, all right, I'll meet her. And so I got the money together to do like her like chakra healing session thing. And I go and see her feeling really awkward. And she's like, I'm going to tap on your different chakras. And then she gets to my heart and she's like, there's something really blocked in your heart. Oh, hi, Mom. So she like starts tapping on my heart. And she's like, I'm going to have to tap really hard and something's going to come up and I want you to tell me whatever you see. So she taps really hard and it hurts. And then I see in my head this painting by Pavel Techov called Cache. And it's this poster that my art teacher gave to me when I was in high school. And it's this crazy, actually, I could probably bring it up and show you all because it is really fucking crazy. Hold on. It's this guy's masterpiece. But my art teacher gave it to me in high school with all these other posters, but it was just always my favorite thing. And I just thought it was really weird that just popped into my head when all that happened. Oh. Sorry, y'all. Really? Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm trying to figure out how to bring you up. Okay. Sorry, y'all. All right, so this is the painting that I see in my head after she taps on my heart. And if you look right by her, there's a moth, right? And it's all the ghosts of these children. Like, it's a pretty creepy painting. and it has the tree in it, right? The tree that I saw with the deer. And the woman tells me, she says, well, what was happening to you when your art teacher gave that to you? And I told her, well, that was when this older guy brainwashed me and he was raping me over and over again. And then my parents found out and they blamed me for it and punished me for it. And like all of it came out in this crazy way that I had never even communicated to anybody before. It just like, I'm just like gushing tears, and it came out in the way that it actually happened and not the way that like I had been telling myself that it happened, because I've been blaming myself for a long time. So after that, I was like, oh, fuck, okay, thanks. See you later. And I go get in my car, and I like bring my phone up to figure out how to get home. And I get an email notification. It says, congratulations, you're a TEDx finalist. And I was like, shit, I'm going to have to tell this story in my speech. And then I threw up in a McDonald's cup. So I try to figure out how I'm going to say this. And then my friend Amy, she did a workshop, like self-portraits of self-care is what it was called. And it was like, go and paint your self-portrait. And it doesn't have to be in like this traditional way. And she talked about it with like, it's like this whole thing she does. She's a therapist. So that day, I'm like, this is going to be really special. It's going to manifest all these things. Cause I'm setting goals left and right, y'all. Like I'm trying my ass off to get my business off the ground. And I'm like, this is it. I'm going to do this thing. This is going to be the thing that like gives me everything I want. Right. So I paint this, and my business is Pachyderm Music Lab. Right. So it's an elephant, and then the ears like have butterfly wings for ears. And I kind of made them look like butterfly with the eyes on the wings, right? And then there's the tree again. So I paint this, and I finish, like I'm painting it at her workshop, and then I just get this feeling. I'm like, I need to go to the lab and check on that moth. So I drive all the way to Indian Trail just to check it. And sure enough, that moth had come out of the cocoon. It was 9 months after I found it. Like 3 months to 2 weeks to 3 months. It was 9 months. And I thought it was a Luna moth all this time, but it actually was not a Luna moth. It was a Polyphemus moth. That was when I found the caterpillar and I put it in the tree. And there's cadence. And then it looked like that. That was it. Yeah, so beautiful. And look at the freaking eyes on the wings, y'all. Like I had just painted eyes in the same place on the freaking elephant. What the hell? So that shit blew my mind. It blew my mind. And I was like, all right, now everything's really going to take off. 3 days after that, the She Says podcast was released. And I felt like I was released in some way. So, I mean, meanwhile, while all this crazy shit is happening, like, I'm still teaching music lessons. I'm still doing Lady Rockstars. I'm still doing all this stuff for Girls Rock. And, like, I feel like I'm getting kind of stretched thin. But I was a little stretched thin. But the thing was the community, right? I've been doing all this work with Girls Rock. I've been building bands with Lady Rockstars. And it was bringing all of these incredible women into my life that, you know, I told them what was going on. Like, they could see me and be like, Krystle, what is happening? You know, I was still showing up and doing my job, but I was breaking every day. And whenever I finally had it in my head that I was going to leave him, and it took the TED Talk, honestly, because he was so unsupportive the whole time. But when I got it in my head that I was going to leave him, I was like, I can do this because I have all these awesome women. Like we were doing girl jams and hanging out and just like laughing and having fun. Meanwhile, he's like spying on me on a camera thinking I'm cheating on him. So, yeah, let's see. Then, well, I did the TED Talk and I was just like, all right, I'm going to leave him. I don't know how. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit my business. Like, I'm just going to stop it. If I have to give up the building that my place is in so I can be free and so my kid can not be super fucked up, then that's just what I'm going to have to do. And it was really as soon as I surrendered in that decision that somebody that I know, an artist who owns a lot of property in Charlotte, she messaged me and she was like, Krystle, the space just became available that we own. I think you might be interested in it. Like, you should come down here and look at it for Girls Rock. So I called Kelly and we went down together, and the place is the place I'm sitting in now. And it like she just messaged me at the time when I needed it. So I like did like a PowerPoint presentation to Jason as to why I needed to move to NODA, which is like the arts district in Charlotte. And he was still like, what the fuck ever, you're going to do what you want to do anyway. And I'm just like, yeah, you can't spy on me anymore there, motherfucker. And I'm going to leave your ass like, ha. So they were trying to figure out how they could like get a shower in here so I could like live here. Cause Kelly and Kevin, they were both scared that like he was going to kill me. But through Lady Rockstars, I met Lana, who's also a mom who was in a shitty marriage and she wanted out. And she's like, all right, we're going to kick him out. We're going to move you into my house. And we did it. Like, we did it. And I did it through the support of all these people. And it was great. I mean, other than I didn't know when I was going to see my kid again, like that shit sucked. But like, I figured it out, and I like couldn't have done it without like community. And it was the community of women that I met through music that like made everything be possible. And so then, you know, I like had a year from hell, but also met Elizabeth, who like I love and I'm gonna marry, and she's amazing. And like we're like settling into our new lives together. But then, you know, there's a pandemic, like, you know, so that's been shitty for like all of us. Cause I mean, I know like me and Elizabeth both, like we need to be around people to like, we just need that. I need, like, I don't get drained really when I'm around other people. Like I get charged up. And she's the same way. But I mean, even if you're an introvert, I'm sure you're missing human contact. So I feel like I'm really missing that piece of my life, right? That community of women. Every month I was building a Lady Rockstars band, and like maybe this is just me being very self-serving and be like, I need you bitches in my life. But like, I need you bitches in my life. I really do. And whatever way we need to make that work. So the plan right now is for me to do these meetups like once a month, and like we can just really, I want your feedback on like, what do you all want? Do you want to just kind of hang out and chat? Do you want me to like bring in a special guest and we could like talk about different things? Do you want to just kind of like see what happens and just tell me, like, give me your feedback on what you like? Or you want to just come in and I'll give a topic and we just have a freaking conversation and connect? Because I mean, I know I've been talking a lot this whole time. I wanted you all to hear my story, but like next time I would just like to just talk and like everybody just check in and say, you know, what we're doing and what we're listening to, and we can just kind of talk to each other and vent, because the lack of human connection sucks. What do you all think?
I'll go first. I like the idea of it, of maybe not like having it be the same thing every time. But like, I kind of like the idea of having a topic and kind of bouncing off of that, or occasionally having like a you know, like a special guest where it's like the point is for them to kind of do like, you know, part of their story, and then like a, I don't know, questions kind of discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. I know my story was super long-winded too. It's like 1,000 pieces.
It's complex, Krystle.
Huh?
It's complex.
It is.
I still consider myself new to Charlotte. So it hasn't even been 3 years that I've been here, and almost a year of it has been in my cocoon, if you will. And I don't know any of you on the phone except for Krystle. So I kind of also like the idea of, the special guests maybe being different people from around the community, like artists and musicians, or, local personalities. I don't know how else to say it, but like, I would like to get to know the community better, this community, and then kind of the adjacent communities.
Well, I will say the plugged in classes, we have people from like a good bit of people from Seattle are in the classes. And then we've got some people from Texas. And so there will be like people from, right now it's all over America. But on the interviewer person thing, me and Marissa were just talking about this. I'm going to do a series where I just interview people. Like, it's just going to be like probably just women. I don't even know if it's just going to be music and arts or what, but it's going to be part of Lady Rockstars. But I'm just going to interview people and put it up on my YouTube channel too. So maybe some of that special guest stuff would just get covered in that way, and you all could go back and watch it or comment on it,
I could be down.
I think that would totally work.
Which, Linda, I want to interview you. I want you to tell me all about your journey as a politician.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's actually really quick. I'll just say we're regular workers running, and that's the whole point of why we're doing it, is to show people that we have a voice and that we're powerful. And this idea that you have to be a politician to actually make change is bullshit. So, yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay.
Sometime.
Heck yes.
I would listen to that. That sounds cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
actually, I just kind of like, I don't know, just bullshitting around and seeing faces and interacting. Even if it's like this, it's still, whatever topic and stuff comes up or anything. I just think it's nice to connect in a different way.
Yeah. Well, me and Marissa and Delana hung out and a couple other friends the other day, and it was amazing. We had a fire, and then we had a lip sync battle, like spontaneously.
Yep.
And Marissa and Malia, she's in the group too. They did the Thriller dance together poorly.
Attempted to do the Thriller dance.
But yeah, I was like, after getting a taste of that, I was like, oh my God, I missed this. And I got burnt out on Zoom calls for a bit, so I just kind of stopped doing them, because we did a virtual rock camp and I was like in Zoom calls all the time with the kids and plus teaching. But I feel like I'm ready to have a balance of those things again. Because just because we don't want to get sick doesn't mean like we won't get sick mentally if we're cut off from everybody.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I feel like since things are opening, like, I think it would be cool, I mean, in the semi-ish near future, like, I could see, like, I know we were talking about this, Krystle, the other day, like a social distance, like, movie night, right? Where it's like, everyone just brings their own, like, chair or blanket, and you, like, social distance, but there's still other people there, and you just, like, project something, like, that type of thing too could be cool. Or even like having a watch party like on Zoom like this could be pretty sweet with something.
Yeah, that would be fun. Like a live commentary on a movie together.
Yeah.
Like Mystery Science Theater 3000. Cool.
I'm also super down to hear what everybody's listening to progressively.
I want y'all to post it in the group on the discussion board. There's like a whole section for song requests.
Oh my God.
Listening to.
I haven't even explored. Whenever I use the website, I just am like, where's bass? Click. I mean, sorry.
But yes, it's cool. Everybody put their a band in the chat that they're listening to. And Linda, what were you gonna say?
Oh, hey. Yeah, I was gonna bring up music. But yeah, what if we did something where we brought next time we meet something that means a lot to us in a sense? Maybe it's a poem. It doesn't necessarily have to be music.
Yeah.
It could be
Like a
a
show and tell.
blanket, no, anything at this
Like
point. Just to
like a show
show
and
more of like,
tell.
yeah, I think that that'll be a great way to build some trust and show a little bit of who we are as an individual.
All right. I like it. All right. So next month. Also, I think I'm going to switch the day just to see if we can get more people out on a different day. Plus, maybe I shouldn't promote it like a week before. I'll kind of space that out a little bit more.
You should make a Facebook event and like put it on Facebook to sign up for it and have it like monthly. You know what I mean? And just have the link in the Facebook event too.
Yeah. Okay. I will do these things. We will have a virtual show and tell next month.
I like it.
Is there a specific day of the week that works better for y'all? Or is everybody just home?
Not Thursday or Friday. For some reason, everybody wants stuff on Thursday for me.
Yeah.
And Friday, I like to hold open, to go out.
When Wednesdays usually are good. I mean, I'm pretty flexible, and if it's at night or Thursday, well, yeah, she can't do Thursdays.
What about Tuesdays?
On a Tuesday, yes.
All right, because that's the time Lady Rockstars usually was before.
Yeah.
Okay, so see you next Tuesday, but it's not next Tuesday. I just wanted to say that. All right, I'm gonna honor everybody's time because we went over. This was supposed to be an hour. Plus, I need to start drinking before I watch the debate.
Oh my. Yeah. Yep.
My mom wants to say bye. She's shy.
Oh, bye.
Bye, Mom. Bye. Venus says bye.
Oh, bye, Venus.
That dog is so cute.
She was like just sleeping on me. It was hilarious. Yeah, she was watching it and listening.
Aw.
I was like, oh, that's adorable. But anyway,
And my mom said your story was powerful. She actually came in because she heard you talking, Krystle.
Yeah.
Aw.
Just to
Thank
throw
you.
that out there.
What's your mom's name? What's your name? Deanna? Nice to
it's
meet
nice
you.
to meet you. Yeah.
All right. I'll be in touch, everybody. Love you.
Bye. Bye. Thanks, Krystle. This was awesome.
You're welcome.